fun with fellowship. It's hard to, sometimes we don't start, but welcome to the Rotary Club of Bearden. If you would, please silence any electronic devices, cell phones, pagers. And Haynes has got our song and pledge today.
Okay. Where's the flag? Oh, here's the
We move it a week. We move it every week to keep yes.
God bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, like a foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Haynes. Gary has our invocation.
Everybody bow their heads, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you today with heavy hearts over the tragedy in Paris and other parts of the world. Please give peace and comfort to those who suffered losses. And also, Lord, please protect those who defend our freedoms here and abroad. And bless this food to the nourishment of our body. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Gary. Charlie's got our guests and visitors. She's up here. Got it? Good.
All right, let's see here. Looks like Rosa Marr has a guest. Rosa, would you like to introduce your guest, please?
I'd like to introduce Christian Pafino, who is the Chief of Operations for a wonderful nonprofit organization in Chattanooga called La Paz. So please welcome Christian.
Welcome, Christian. Marshall Parker has a couple of guests here today.
I don't know if y'all remember or not, we had Earl Henry to talk to the club. Yeah. A year ago? 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago. Maryland, and they're doing a lot in IMS, and we've been over there today at IMS Nature Center, and he can take you around and show you things you don't know. They got a Paragon falcon that Earl, they gave the bird to his dad, and he made a taxidermy thing, and it's over there. And then they didn't have any of those birds in the Smoky Mountains for 50 years, and they brought them in, and the birds they brought in went to the same place that they've gotten this bird from. That's kind of interesting. But you want to say a few words? You find your ears. His dad went down on the Indianapolis. I don't know. He was dentist here, and he and my dad were roommates, and that's why we know each other. But he also has a lady that you can tell me about. I'm right about the lady. Let me just say that they're in the lines about my father's, and it's still being developed. They do wonderful work there. I just want to say this, that my wife and I appreciated so much what a warm welcome we got when I entered the program 2.5 years ago. You all have a great work. Thank you. I'd like to say while we're here, there were 2 lieutenant commanders from Knoxville who died on the USS Indianapolis. And the widow of the other lieutenant commander, that is Cal C. Moore, her name, the widow is Catherine Moore. Her funeral was at 2 o'clock today. And that's why we visited her just 2.5
if you haven't been to IMS recently, you should go. It's a wonderful jewel in Knoxville's crown. Visiting Rotarians, I'm going to see if I can get this one right. Is it Odgo Oliveira? Did I get that right?
Not quite.
From the downtown. Okay, how do you pronounce it?
Oji Oliveira.
Oji Oliveira. All right. And Adam Brock from Farragut. Where are you, Adam? Welcome guests and visitors. Please come back and see us again.
Thank you, Charlie. I'm glad that was you trying to mention OG's name instead of me, but you did pretty good there, fellow. What do I do with my notes? Come right here, I think. Dick, would you update us on Pond Gap?
Yes, we had full staff of readers today and for next week as well. I've already been asked about December is also full, but I'll be putting out January and February's list next week that we meet. Thank you for everyone who's been reading. It's been going great this year.
Thank you, Dick. And as a reminder, we're not meeting next week as well. So mobile meals, someone got an update on mobile meals?
I delivered today, I'm not sure.
Did you?
I don't think we delivered next week because of the holidays. I think she's still looking, she's looking for December, I believe.
Okay, well, Janice isn't here today, so we'll try to get out an email if she's needing sign-ups to all our club members. So thank you very much, Michael. Also wanted to mention our two Andys and a bit of appreciation for them attending the training session, training for Rotarians, clubs. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but I don't remember it. But thank you all. And Andy, did you? I know the other Andy mentioned had a real good time at that training. It was excellent. Curriculum, good. Well, thank you all for going. I know it's giving up half your day to go to a training session on Saturdays. Kind of tough sometimes. With that, I'd like to turn the program over to humor. Oh, wait. Oh, I don't know why I always forget humor. I guess
It's easy to forget.
I have it listed here, so I'm sorry. Gary's got humor as well. So, Gary.
After this, I will have done humor twice, the first time and the last time, so please bear with me here. The local news station was interviewing an 80-year-old lady because she had just gotten married for the 4th time. The interviewer asked her questions about her life, about what it felt like to be marrying again at 80, and then about her new husband's occupation. He's a funeral director, she answered. Interesting, the newsman thought. He then asked her if she wouldn't mind telling him a little about her first 3 husbands and what they did for a living. She paused for a few moments, needing time to reflect on all those years. After a short time, a smile came to her face, and she answered proudly, explaining that she'd first married a banker when she was in her 20s, then a circus ringmaster when in her 40s, and a preacher when in her 60s, and now in her 80s, a funeral director. The interviewer looked at her quite astonished and asked why she had married 4 men with such diverse careers. She smiled and explained, I married 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and 4 to go.
And we're not going to let you just do that. Thank you. Well, we're really in for a treat on our program today, and it's homegrown, so to speak. It's our own member. Phil Parkey's going to introduce our guest speaker today. And Phil, if you would, please. The floor is yours.
Here's the question of the day. You remember when Oliver Smith had his party? Does everybody remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. What did our speaker go as? Everybody dressed up. What did our speaker go as? No.
A drug addict.
No. Initials GG. Great Gatsby. Exactly right. And he looked the part too. Our speaker is Roy Diatikar, a member of us. He joined Rotary in 1999. His sponsor was Diatikar. He's a Paul Harris +3. He headed up our international committee when it was a standalone. It is now part, of course, of the foundation. His wife is Perrin Sue. He is very active in his church, an avid reader. He has traveled to many places in the past, and he loves to give health care messages. So, Roy, it's all yours, buddy. Come on, let's give a round to Roy.
Someone I know very well told me he was concerned about his health, and it turns out that he thought he had herpes, so he was afraid to go to the doctor. He was very embarrassed, so he went about a month and finally did go to the doctor. He found out that it was a different kind of thing that he had that could be, it was actually a disease called scabies. So he was concerned that it might be something never go away, but he was able to go to the doctor and treat that. So I'm fine now, Roy. What he was wanting to tell me is the cross between herpes and canary is chirpies. So there we go. Right from Sam Carey back there.
Hey, Hippo, watch out for Hippo.
Okay, let's get into this because I want to have time for questions. I'm going to talk about viruses, infectious disease, with an emphasis on viruses. Viruses, for a long, long time in human history, were not known because you couldn't see them. But there were a lot of diseases that were really bad and caused death, and there were a lot of pandemic type of conditions where many people all over the world died. So the viruses were first isolated as late as 1895. The thing that made it so difficult was they're 100 times smaller than bacteria. The genetic material, RNA and DNA, that some viruses have one or the other, but not both, replicates in the host. So a virus, in order to survive, has to have a host cell. There's no capacity for independent protein synthesis, no capacity to generate its own energy, has no cell wall, no nucleus. It reproduces by assembly of various viral pieces, totally dependent on the host cell for survival. Unless it finds a host cell, and we're the host cell in our bodies. Our target cells are in us, so they invade our bodies, and they usually go to the respiratory lung area. Okay, the way they reproduce or replicate is it enters the cell by melting, merging, or being swallowed up by the cell. The virus may have one of three genetic materials. That's RNA, DNA, or RNA retrovirus. The DNA or RNA must enter the host cell nucleus to replicate by hijacking the DNA polymerase of the host cell. It actually invades the cell, goes right to the nucleus, and then by a complex
chemical reactions, it actually takes over, and then it comes out of the cell as in millions of particles. First, the virus attaches to the host cell using two components. A viral attachment occurs by complex and cellular receptors. In order for it to go to that cell, it has to find a receptor. So it does that and then invades. For HIV, cellular receptor are proteins. For influenza, the receptor site is sialic acid. Other viruses have different other types of receptors. A lot of them are sugar receptors. Now keep in mind, a receptor is a site. It's where the virus actually is able to attach, and it can't just attach anywhere, so it has to find a receptor site cell. Okay, RNA, many viruses are RNA, some are DNA, some are a retrovirus. So the RNA, those that are RNA are foreign genetic material to humans, because humans don't have RNA, they have DNA. So what it does, it invades the cell and it has to trick the host cell to produce RNA polymerase that allows the replication. RNA retroviruses, which AIDS is, we won't talk much on that, but it possesses one copy of the single-stranded RNA along with enzyme reverse transcriptase. Anything in it in ASA is an enzyme. So that uses that particular enzyme to do its damage. After it enters the cell, the RNA strand is copied into double-stranded DNA spiral helix. Now, this is a very complex process, and I don't have time to go into that, but I'm just telling you this to have a better idea, kind of an idea about it. The reverse of the normal process using integrase, another enzyme. Replication is exponential, producing millions of viral particles. In other words, when it actually breaks out of that host cell, it has millions of particles traveling around your body. All right, the replication, the first virus attaches to the host cell. First, the virus attaches to a host cell using two components. A viral attachment occurs by complex and cellular receptors. For HIV, cellular receptor or protein. Okay, I've already been through it. RNA is a foreign to humans, so it's got to trick. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay. This says it's the most effective diet pill we sell. You have to chase it around a handball court for an hour a day. This is a picture of the CDC in Atlanta, and that is just interesting. I thought you might want to see how big and how complex that is. It's kind of interesting. All right, viral parts. One, there are some DNA viral parts, RNA, and retroviruses. This just lists some of those in the DNA category: herpes, smallpox, chickenpox, respiratory, and plantar warts. In the RNA category, it's influenza, measles, mumps, scabies, rabies, Ebola, polio, common cold, norovirus, and hepatitis A. And the retro is the AIDS, HIV, and the hepatitis B. All right. The Global Aviation Network makes it possible for disease to spread within 24 hours. That's what causes a pandemic that can happen because of all the flying around the world. Diseases transmitted by bacteria, viruses can be vector-borne. Vector means that it was started in an animal, a bird, or an insect. It carries it. So what we think of vector-borne, you have to have that vector there for that to happen for a pandemic. Okay. Different germs have different modes of transmission. Increasing bacterial resistance by overuse of antibiotics. And in the United States, there has been a overuse of antibiotics, so we can be prone for certain diseases because we've been overprescribed for antibiotics for a lot of things. So we hope that the vaccines will carry it and make it where we don't have that problem. But many times when you have disease, you have a secondary infection which is caused by bacteria. Now, the issue of disease spread, we have in our world developed and developing countries. But, you know, the United States has the capability that China doesn't have, and maybe Germany has the capability that Afghanistan doesn't have in handling disease. So there's a big difference all across. The burden of disease on nations at war, like Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, those areas can be a problem because there's not a whole lot of emphasis when you fight a war to prevent disease. And where there's war, there's people sick, and that can spread. Special issues such as environmental destruction, like the Amazon River Valley, where they're tearing down forest lands, and emerging diseases come from that kind of thing, where man's never been before. So the ideal elements for a pandemic that we're trying to talk about today: human to human transmission. If it has to be animal or bird or insect, it's not as likely, but where there's a lot of people, where people are around each other, that's a heck of an advantage for the spread of disease. Potential to mutate. That's where you have a disease and the makeup of the germ changes, and there's no longer any vaccine or immune system to fight it off. So, high mortality rate. The most dangerous thing is where there's a lower mortality, where people can get sick but they don't die, but they carry disease and spread it. If you have one that's killing everybody, not as many are going to be out spreading. So that's another factor. Short incubation rate means you may be sick and not know it yet, but you're spreading it, but still within like 48, 72 hours, you're sick and you're seriously ill. Resistance to multiple antibiotic or antiviral medications, like we talked about earlier. Okay, better control of disease. We have better diagnostics, better treatment, new vaccines, better protective equipment like gloves and masks. We have improved funding. There's billions of dollars being passed out among countries, not just the developed, but even the undeveloped countries, to combat the possibility of pandemics. Global surveillance systems that coordinate responses. All the countries around the world are actually working together. If they detect something that looks like a pandemic possibility, they are in contact with everybody in that system. All right, the transmission, direct contacts, that means you're touching that person. Okay, so you get it by being close enough to touch them. Droplet transmission is coughing, sneezing up to 8 feet. When you cough or sneeze and don't close or cover your mouth, you're just spewing out from almost up to 8 feet. Airborne is where the actual germ itself gets in the air, and actually it's so small that it actually travels in the air in dust particles that way. Fecal oral, that's usually undeveloped countries that don't have clean water and their hygiene is not good. So that's third world usually. So there can be a combination of all these modes of transmission. This lists quite a number of different infectious diseases and how they're transmitted. You've got the Ebola, human to human, body and infected fluids. You have SARS, MERS, and smallpox with droplet airborne, human to human. You have flu, droplet and contact, human to human. You got the plague. Oops. Back here. Sorry.
Nope, back one.
Okay, cholera, fecal to oral, and drug-resistant E. coli. All these are potentially very dangerous type of disease. So here's our Thanksgiving humor. For once, we're going to have a happy family get-together. I'm stuffing the turkey with Prozac. All right, future pandemic. It's not a matter of whether it will happen, it's when it will happen. And health officials worldwide are projecting that it'll either be in your children's or your grandchildren's lifetime when it will happen. And if it does, millions, literally millions or more will die from it. Because what's happening is the most serious germs that we have, that they will mutate, and then there won't be any autoimmune system, and there won't be any antibiotics or anything, no vaccine. So that's going to happen. That's why I'm bringing this up to you today. Most likely, the start of such will be in Southeast or Eastern Asia. The transmission will likely be an airborne or aerosol type thing in the air. Tick and vector animal-borne diseases are unlikely for a pandemic because they're not all around the globe, and there's usually plenty of time to combat them, and they can be sexualized. Certain bacteria, though, are possible, but not as likely as others. So, influenza, it has been determined, is the most likely disease that can be cause of a pandemic. There have been 4 pandemics involving flu in the last 100 years. And it has a short incubation, 48 to 72 hours. It's tough to quarantine. It makes people ill, but like I pointed out earlier, it doesn't usually kill everybody. So it may kill 25%, but that leaves 75% to spread. So that's the problem there. 3 questions. How would we find out about the pandemic, a possibility? How long would it take to develop an antidote or a vaccine, and what can be done to prepare yourself for that? There's several websites you can look at. You can Google around, but here's one website I'd like to show you real quick. Is this one right here, the M Health System. You can go on this and you can look and click on whatever you want to find out. This is a very good, and it's one that you can depend on to get information. So go on to this. Influenza viruses are noted by the H and N, the H1N1, H1N2, or H2N1, H5N2. So the H's are the hemagglutinin portion, and the N's are the neuraminidase. But to explain how it can become pandemic, they can become antigenic, they can produce antigenic drift. And the way that happens, the H1N1 can go to H1N2, H2N1, or a different. But that's only slightly the drift is. The big problem is when antigenic shift happens, and that's where H1N1 goes to H5N2 or H7N9. And I'm going to show a little thing here to illustrate that.
You may have heard the newest influenza virus referred to as H1N1. Finally, we hear what the H and N mean from Anthony Fauci, Director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases.
We identify influenza by 2 proteins on its surface called hemagglutinin and neuraminidase and hence the terminology H and N.
Influenza viruses generally affect a population in seasons. Sometimes, according to Dr. Fauci, they can modify slightly in what's called a drift. Researchers often adjust the influenza vaccine for that drift. But in the 20th century, there was a major shift in the influenza virus, and scientists and the public were unprepared for it. In 1918, the H1N1 virus, known then as the Spanish flu, killed 50 million people in a global pandemic. Two other pandemics occurred in 1957 and 1968. The Asian flu in 1957 killed at least 1 million, and the Hong Kong flu in 1968 killed 700,000. With the spread of avian flu in 2004, health experts had practice in preparing for a possible pandemic on the scale of the current H1N1 flu. They are not saying this virus is as deadly as the 1918 flu, but they warn that poorer countries need help to prepare. Dr. Dennis Carroll, an influenza specialist with the U.S. Agency for International Development, says exercises have already begun in parts of Africa.
Country representatives from 7 East African countries were able to draw from their experiences developing national pandemic plans to test them in real-time context of a possible H1N1 pandemic. We have similar exercises already planned for South African countries in June and Asian countries in August.
Scientists in the United States and elsewhere are now in developmental stages of a vaccine for this H1N1 virus. They say the virus could gather strength as the flu season begins in the southern hemisphere, and as it sets in some months from now in the northern hemisphere. Health experts predict that the earliest date a vaccine would be available is in September. Melinda Smith, VOA News.
So now you know what the H1N1's about after watching that. So it's,
Roy, when was that video? Does it refer to anything?
it's about 4 to 5 months old.
Oh,
So
they're talking about this.
they're talking about right now.
This influenza potentially, the next
Yes,
one.
the next one, but there's no guarantee there's gonna be, there's just no, that's the problem. You just don't know. And all they're doing is taking information from southern hemisphere, down in South America or in Australia and those places, to make up the flu vaccine that we're getting right now, here. That's how they know what to do here. So this just lists those pandemics that had happened. Now let me go over this. It's incubation period, 48 to 72 hours. The symptoms for any flu is the cough, non-productive cough, muscle aches, terrible muscle aches, high fever up to 103 or more, dry, non-productive cough, which lasts 7 to 10 days. So the classic flu is going to go around 10 to 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks. Every single year, whether you hear anything or not, you don't hear this, but 30 to 50,000 deaths annually in the U.S. from flu. Okay, so, you know, we don't hear that, but that's not a pandemic, that's not an epidemic, but that's just the way it is. That's like automobile accident fatalities here. So the treatment here is get your shot, get your vaccine, and you might want to consider a pneumonia vaccine with it, because what happens if you get a bad case of flu, pneumonia can take you down, okay? That happens a lot, okay? So Tamiflu, everybody knows what Tamiflu, you've heard of it. It only lessens the length of the flu itself. It doesn't cure it, but it just calms it down a little bit. Hopefully, get it soon enough. Families come in and get it and keep it at home. So, all right, we'll try to get this in real quick, and then we'll be finished, and you can ask questions.
No one likes to be sick. That's why I get a physical every year to try to keep healthy. Because even the healthiest of us face the threat of infection from an unexpected endemic influenza. Today we'll talk about being ready for a pandemic.
Meet
an expert on getting ready for the unexpected. Together they'll find ways to prepare that don't take a lot of time.
Pandemic influenza is an unknown pathogen. It can spread very quickly, and if we should have a pandemic, it can be very dangerous. Pandemic influenza will be treated using techniques like social distancing. That means schools, churches, businesses, and stores where you shop will be closed, and you'll be unable to resupply yourself.
If we're required to stay close to home during a pandemic, we have food we've stored to rely on. Stores may be closed or store shelves empty. A 2-week food supply is a minimum for any emergency, but more is better. Disruptions caused by the pandemic may impact water treatment and delivery systems. Stored water is a must, a minimum of a gallon per person per day.
You can protect yourself prior to a pandemic by living a healthy lifestyle, a good diet, exercise regularly, and wash your hands often using soap and water. Limit your contact with crowds. You can do that by communicating electronically, like email, text messaging, and cell phones.
We're going to be adding a few items to our storage so we can deal with fighting infection in case we get sick. The first is extra bleach. We can make our own disinfectant by blending a 1/4 cup bleach with a gallon of water. It's important to keep surfaces clean and disinfected. Regularly wipe down countertops, keyboards, phones, game systems, and other things get handled to limit further infection. With pandemic influenza, you may develop aches, pains, and fever. A high fever is dangerous, so be sure to store fever reducers like acetaminophen and ibuprofen. Aspirin is okay for adults, but not for children or teenagers unless a doctor prescribes it. Other pandemic influenza symptoms can leave us dehydrated, vomiting, and diarrhea. That can lead to serious complications from an imbalance in our body's electrolytes. I'm getting sport drinks for our storage. They help restore electrolytes.
You can make your own electrolyte cream by mixing 1 quart of water, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar.
Pick up some medical face masks at a drugstore. They'll help you avoid airborne infection, especially if you're caring for somebody who's already sick. And take 20 minutes to get a flu shot every year. It may not prevent you from getting a case of pandemic influenza, but it will help your body fight it more effectively. I'll see you next time. Hopefully.
Visit kbync.org to get your food ready.
Roy, would you be available? We're gonna have to cut it off because we got several things to do, but would you be available at the end of the meeting for questions?
Yes.
Would that be all right with
Yeah.
everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we thank you for a very interesting program in trying to increase our IQ with all the acronyms you had there on DNA and RNA. And we've got a book, if you would sign on our behalf.
Good afternoon. Before I get started on Rotary Family, I want to remind all the people that signed up for bell ringing that is the first Saturday of December, which is December 5th. And we have one opening that came up. I need a volunteer for 11 to noon. Is there anybody out there that can do 11 to noon on Saturday the 5th? If you do, see me at the end of the meeting. Okay, there wasn't a whole lot in the newspaper this past week about any of our Rotary members, but we did have one note that you all need to know about. Jason Fields isn't here today. His mother had a massive heart attack, and she's scheduled for surgery today to install stents, which will hopefully cure the problem. So wish everybody to please keep both of them in your prayers. And we have one birthday. Is Ben McMurray here today? We're doing 2 weeks since we're not meeting next week, and out of the whole 2 weeks, we have one birthday, which is Ben McMurray's, which is tomorrow on the 21st. So that's it for the Rotary News. Thank you all.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that. Phil, we've got next year's, Ted's got his slate nominees, I think, pretty much assembled, and Phil is going to announce our nominations for next year's Board of Directors.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Ben.
This slate will be voted on December the 18th. The other committee members, Richard, Oliver, and Gary, were asked to come up, but all refused.
Which Gary?
Gary West. All of them refused to meet and face you with me. The reason that that they did that was the delegate at large slot was Ted selected me, and all of the other members of the committee voted, and by 100% affirmation on all 12 other slots other than mine. So Ted intervened, and he got me past this situation. Here is your slate. President will be Ted Holtz, President-elect Dick Hinton, Secretary Charlie Biggs, Treasurer Paul Yeager, and I'm leaving this for the last one out of the officers, and all the other members said it's about time. Wayne Underwood. Is Wayne here? He's not even here to take the ridicule. Okay. Wayne Underwood will be in the rotation to be president. Service, Stuart Anderson. Youth, Janice Mitchell. PR, Leo Knight. Membership, Ray Fisher. Admin, one of our newest members, Mike Hahn. The foundation slot is still open. We hope to have that filled very shortly. Past president, Tom Daughtry, and the other one that was not unanimous, Phil Parkey, for the delegate at large. So that is your slate. Thank you, Tom.
I tell you, I thought, Ted, you've got some excellent nominees for your board, and real excited for you to take over, actually. I see now why Gary was so elated with the end of the year last year. It's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun, too. I don't indicate it isn't. And I'm as excited as Phil and others that Wayne's stepping into the leadership as president role, or vice president, I guess. This is Foundation Month, and I'd like to recognize Gary to come forward, please. If you would, yes. Last weekend, the Rotary Foundation had a dinner, and Gary couldn't make it, but or Wayne, and it's really, this award goes to them and their leadership last year. And if you don't mind, I'll read it. It's the End Polio Now Award, and it's presented to the Rotary Club of Bearden as a certificate of appreciation for its financial support for the end of polio now. Make History Today campaign. Together we will fulfill our promise to the children of the world to eradicate polio. Gary, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're right there. All right.
I need toothpicks for that, I think. Gary, thank you. And I hate that Wayne couldn't be here today, but he's certainly integral on helping us raise funds for our foundation support. I want to mention just briefly about Dottie had given me an envelope full of box tops, cereal box tops, little coupons, and I finally got a chance to take them to Pond Gap today, and dropped them off at the principal's office, and they were elated to get them. Each of those little box tops represent 10 cents in cash now, and that adds up. They really were appreciative, And I apologize to them because I hadn't marketed that program for them this year. So I'd like to keep in everybody's mind, and let's all try to save our box tops, our families, save them and turn them into our Pond Gap School. They get cash, 10 cents per box top, and if we'll turn them in, and sure, if anyone needs to just turn them in here at the club, we'll get them to them. So that could be an excellent, a little bit of making a difference that we try to do every day. So thank you, Dottie, for that. And the school was very appreciative. And there's an envelope full of them too. It's quite a few. The Rotary license plate is I happen to participate in Indiana as leader on establishing an Indiana Rotary license plate. Well, we're going to get one hopefully here in Tennessee. It's a little bigger challenge here than it was in Indiana. It's going to take 1,000 folks to sign up for it, and a pledge of $35. We have to send it a check up front here in Tennessee, and that's what really makes it tough. Indiana, we just had to have the signatures. But in any event, our district is taking the lead on that, and Amanda's going to put something in a newsletter, send it out. We'll have some printouts down the road where you can sign up and get your own Rotary license plate. And the moving billboard to advertise what we all represent and feel so passionately about, we can now put on our cars. So that's a good way to show the Rotary spirit, as well as raise half the money comes back on a yearly basis to the Rotary Foundation. So we'll get information out on that, and I hope everybody supports it. I'd like to ask Sam to come up with, we have some tickets. We have quite a few.
You have one for football?
Yeah, you want me to go ahead and do those first? All right, well, we'll get with the football tickets first. We got Vanderbilt tickets available for next weekend. And the trivia question today is, who was the first Tennessee running back to gain 1,000 yards or more in a season? First Tennessee running back.
I would say McKeever again.
No, I should give the year, I guess. No, that's good guess. Is in 1984.
Oh, shit.
Keeper.
Johnny Jones?
Johnny Jones, that's it. All right, congratulations.
You can do it right there.
Are we reading all four or just two?
Just you got four. Just read the date. This lady balls me.
No, we got 2 more tickets to give away. Football tickets. As you can see, we're a well-oiled machine. And Phil, I apologize if I've done this one before, but what Tennessee running back player in 1989 has gained the most yards in a game?
Chuck Webb. Yep.
You got it.
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, too late. You got it, Jim. You got it.
I raised my hand up.
I was gonna say.
It's just a Vanderbilt game.
Well, one of you guys won the tickets. I'll let you out on that.
I'll let it go.
Jim, you said it, but
All right. I'll see you in the alley after.
you better watch. He's a lawyer, so. Sam, you got the basketball tickets. We got 4 sets of basketball tickets.
4 sets of 4.
Ladies ball.
Michael, if you could call out the date and who Lady Balls are playing on each one. The first one.
I've got 5 sets of 4. Actually, the first
5 sets.
First game is tonight, actually, against Syracuse.
And we got this is coming off the roster. No trivia. We're gonna make quick of this. Pick a number between 1 and 94.
77.
Hold on. Bo Sutton.
44.
These things are backwards.
Uh-oh.
Paul Yeager.
Paul's here. All right, Paul. Okay.
Okay. Another, what's the next date and what next game, Michael?
Monday the 23rd against UT Chattanooga.
Chattanooga.
What in the number?
Okay,
The number.
28.
Jason's not here. Pick another one.
43.
G. Turner.
All right. This guy. G3 for me, all right. That's what you call a makeup call.
Friday the 27th against Albany.
Pick another number.
Okay.
Is that Albany, Georgia, or?
88.
Alan's not here. Alan Wright.
81.
Wayne Underwood's not here.
76.
Adam Starkey.
56.
Ben McMurray.
10.
Bob Booth.
All right, Bob, way to go. Okay, last one. Two more.
Sunday the 29th against Texas.
11.
Brad Buckshorn.
13.
Ed Campbell.
18.
Nancy Christian's not here.
28.
You already.
33.
Charlie Garvey.
Charlie. One more.
And let's find out the date and the game.
The Wednesday the 2nd, ETSU.
Okay. 2.
Stuart Anderson's.
51.
David Lund.
All right.
All right.
Good job. Well, we had dual winners today. Okay, one more trivia contest. This will be the end today. I know we're the 4-way trivia contest. This is Foundation Month, and I wanted to bring in a foundation type question. Name the only Rotarian in our district to receive the Polio Eradication Champion Award, which is one of Rotary's highest awards.
More Diatikar.
Oh, good.
Bill Sargent.
That's it.
Yeah.
I guess I had to get a homer in there. Foundation Month.
Thank you.
It was Bill Sargent. It was presented posthumously in 2012, and he would have been really. It's not many Rotarians, if any, others have gotten that award, so it's quite an honor. Again, next week we're not having a meeting. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. We'd like to thank our visitors and guests for coming, and please be a gift to the world. Who has Peyton?
I got him.
All righty, Drew, lead us
Four-way
out.
test, if it makes me think, say we're due first.
Is it Drew?
Second.
Very